I got busted knuckles and a broken heart. Pass me the glue because I'm falling apart. Swinging doors to lead me to a remedy when they send me off a shot of that whiskey. Some say it's awful and easy to hate. It messes with your mind when the hour's late. It helps me forget about you and me. It's my one true love, whiskey.
I decided not to allow myself to get distracted from making videos anymore based on all of my needs being perfect. I used to, as some of you may know, back in 2008 when I first started my channel, I did hair tutorials in t-shirts and never worried about what I was wearing, never worried about how good the photos were of it afterwards and all that good stuff. And I kind of feel like I need to kind of return to go back to basics in that regard, because lately I've been allowing myself to not film based on everything not being perfect with my setup or with my accessories or whatever. So I feel like that's not really me anymore. I have a lot on my plate, but I do like to set it up in a specific way, and I need to stop allowing myself to not make a video based on that not happening or falling into place exactly. I have always had, from the beginning when I first started my channel, I have always had a lot of requests for Rita Hayworth waves, and I'll put a picture around here because it is by far, and I think most of the vintage gurus here on YouTube would attest to that, it is by far the most requested look that we get when it comes to vintage hair. So I like to try to revisit this every so often. I did a hot rollers tutorial for this style back in 2008. I think it was my second video, and I since removed it for a few reasons. And then I did a sponge roller version of this back in 2009. And unfortunately that one, the humidity was so high that day that that the curls did not completely set. So therefore it was a little too relaxed for me, and I ended up removing it for that reason. And then I did the traditional standard way, which I actually will link below in the description bar. That is the pin curl way of doing a Rita Hayworth wave. And now I'm going to go back to the foam roller tutorial because I had a request a while back to revisit that since I had to remove that video. This is a style that isn't exact, but it still gives you this general aesthetic, the general feel, and it still gives you some authenticity. As most of you know, especially if you live in a high humidity environment, a hot set doesn't necessarily lend itself to the most authentic version of this style because it is very difficult to maintain that sort of look over the course of any period of time, like hours or the entire day, with a heated set in high humidity, especially if your hair is naturally straight like mine is. But my length is almost right. It's a little too long. I need a haircut really bad. But anyway, so I thought I'd go ahead and revisit that. This will be a spoken tutorial, so we'll probably be chatting as we're going. And hopefully it will be helpful. The first thing I'm going to do, I have a little spray bottle here with a lot of body setting lotion and water in it. Other than that, I'm not doing any products because this is a couple of days, this hair. This is like second to third day hair, I think actually technically 2.5 day hair. So it is not going to be, I don't need to put too much product in it because it already has quite a bit in it. So I'm just going to do a little diluted Lot of Body Setting Lotion with just plain water. And then I'm using just traditional medium-sized foam rollers. These are what I guess you would consider to be the large size, maybe medium to large. They typically come in a little plastic set that has small, medium, large. And I think this is the medium size. But this is the one that I use because my hair being long and straight, if I use the larger ones, it will give me volume but no wave. So it's important that I use this size. And I'm going to start with my bangs. My bangs are this long. I keep them short. I don't technically usually wear my hair off my forehead because I just feel like I'm more confident with my hair, with my bangs on down. But I guess I need a mirror. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is my bangs. So all I'm going to do, they're already sort of sprayed and they have some product in them. So all I'm going to do is take the water and dampen them and do one lifted roller right here. Just All right, and the only thing that I feel like is important to remember when it comes to this sort of a wave, and something that I've discovered is pretty universal, my hair is layered, as you can see, shorter layers here. It's a very grown out midi haircut, and you can look up videos on YouTube about the midi haircut because they're quite plentiful now. I like to say, I like that I was one of the first though. Not very many people had a midi video before 2008, and mine is very, very lackluster compared to some of the ones that have come out since, but I'm glad that I had something to do with it being promoted, because it's a very, very handy thing to have, is a guide to the midi haircut. Okay, so I'm rolling this section upward. And so it's going to kind of stick up like that. And I did that with I always did that with my hot rollers too, because I feel like when you do these two sections up, it gives you a little bit more on straight here. It gives you a little bit more of that S curve that you want for a Rita Hayworth style. And just make sure the ends are wrapped in tight, and hold both sides of the roller as you go up. Okay, so we have those two, and I'm going to give them a little extra spray to kind of tighten that curl. And then literally the rest of this, we're just going to roll downward. And you can do this generally even without a mirror, because this is so not important. Or at least I feel like it is. There's a lot of people who are really, really specific with their placement of their rollers and stuff, and I absolutely appreciate the perfection that their styles come out in. But for me, I just really don't mind all that much. I just sort of like it to look a little bit finished, but not necessarily perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to do a couple more. Now the only difference in this tutorial and the other one I did, just to prevent any crimping along the upper area here where the waves first start to take shape, I'm actually going to use soft bendy rollers on those areas because there's nothing to crimp. I still prefer the way that the rollers take as far as foam rollers go, but that little latch thing is definitely more of an issue, and there's ways that you can, you know, pin them and shape them so that you don't get that problem. But unfortunately, but I feel like that this is definitely an easier way to do it. It's just to use the bendy rollers on the top layers, because the bendy rollers don't have that problem. I just feel like I don't like the curl quite as much. So I did a bendy roller here, and then I will do a bendy roller along this whole section here. But you'll notice I'm keeping the rollers out of this area completely, because you want this area to lay sort of flat for 1940 styles. I feel like I've said that so many times in videos, it's a little silly. But yeah. So yeah, now I'm going to go back to my foam rollers. And you'll notice I'm rolling pretty big sections. These are going to take a little longer to dry, but the curl will be a little bit better for what we're wanting to do, because this kind of curl can tend to go a little small. But it will last me longer than using the larger foam rollers. I love tutorials where people are able to achieve this using large foam rollers. I wish that I could, but I've noticed that when I use the really large rollers, it just does nothing. Nothing.
Whiskey, whiskey, lock up my pain. The only one I can depend on when my life goes down the drain. I look for a deal and I'll drink what you got. When I have a heartache, that's when I drink a lot. The best way I know to kill a memory, well, pass that bottle to me. Pass it over here.
How many of you have been following me for a really long time? I'm curious. I don't know who still watches me that watched me all the way back in 2008. But I really love watching how the vintage community has grown, and then also how it has kind of cooled again. Around 2010, the vintage community was growing in leaps and bounds. There were new tutorials every week from new people. There were product reviews and makeup tutorials dealing with pinup makeup and retro and rockabilly, and everything was like just going. It was huge. And Viva Las Vegas was on everybody's mind. And then all of a sudden, like around 2015 or 14, I feel like it kind of cooled off again a little bit. And I might be wrong. Those of you who make videos and have regularly since then, I would like to hear what your input is on it. But it does feel like it's cooled a little bit. My videos don't get near the number of views they used to. And I know that has a lot to do with me and what I can actually put into the videos. But I really think it's interesting to see the kind of just to see how things have progressed and how the popularity of some things and trends go up and down. I remember when Christina Aguilera's Candyman video came out, people just went insane for vintage style. And then I think Katy Perry did that video for Thinking of You, and I personally got more requests for that hairstyle, the hairstyles that she wore in that video and the makeup she wore in that video than anything else that I had done up to that point. So I feel like that retro enthusiasm, especially when it comes to 40s and 50s styles, definitely, you know, wax and wane. But it's also something that is still it maintains a very real presence in social media in general, regardless of whether or not YouTube kind of goes up and down. I've only got 2 rollers that I'm going to be using. This one for this piece. And then for this piece. And then I'm going to sit under the dryer for as long as it takes, probably about 30 minutes. But, you know, generally if you decided you wanted to sleep on this, it would probably just take all night depending on the thickness of your hair. If you've got super thick hair, you may not want to use water at all. You may just want to use a setting solution. Or not a setting solution, but just like a foaming setting mousse, kind of like Motion's foaming wrap lotion or something like that, just to moisten the hair a little bit before you roll it. You don't have to moisten it with water at all. Water just sort of holds my hair a little better. But yeah, you don't have to do that. But anyway, so this is what I'm doing today. And these are the way the rollers look. And we will see how it turns out after I have sat under the dryer for a little while. But yeah, this was fun. Because I didn't really plan it. I feel like I put too much energy into planning. But anyway, I'll be back. Okay. So these should be pretty dry. It's not a super humid day today. So I would actually be a little surprised if they're not dry. Now, one thing I have noticed since I moved out to the country is we're on well water now, and I've discovered that my curls are not as springy as they used to be. I know a lot of that has to do with the length of my hair, but I strongly feel that some of it has to do with the water. I've looked up a lot of information on it, and I'm not really finding anything that I feel like necessarily applies to me. Mine is a spring-fed well. So I don't have a lot of the issues with lime and stuff like that build up as other people. But I cannot use a regular conditioner at all if I'm going to style my hair afterwards. I actually use the L'Oreal or the Superior Preference shampoo conditioner, or the conditioner that comes with your hair color, and I love that conditioner, but I literally can only use it like once in a blue moon because it will weigh my hair down too much. And I have discovered that is the case since I've moved. So I don't mind the way my hair looks. I feel like it looks shiny. So I'm not like super worried about it. I just don't quite know if there's a way to treat it. All right, so here I am with my springy curls, and they're all completely cool. I got out from under the dryer and then immediately let it like just sat for a while and let the hair cool down, because if I had brushed it out right out from under the dryer, it would have pulled some of the curl out because the hair was still warm. So now it's not. And now I'm going to just brush through my curls until they are just waves. But you won't see that happen right away. And I'm using my Denman styling brush as usual. And the reason also that I have a lot more static right now is because the air is a little bit drier. in the house than it usually is because we have had our fireplace going. So that sucks some of the moisture out of the air. So the first thing I'm gonna do is pin this back. This is just my bangs and I don't really care. I'm giving them a little bit of push, a little bit of lift. See, and then give them just a little tiny bit of lift before I pin them. And then I'm gonna pin them straight back right here and pull this portion over the top. And now I will just brush. It's gonna be hard because of the shortest layers are still like this long. So with the length my hair is right now, it's gonna be hard for me to have it much less, have the waves start much higher than this right here. But that's the general look I'm going for. Now I'll pin my hair back. I will typically place a clip there. All right, and then I'm going to take these clips out. Alright, so that is using foam and bendy rollers, a Rita Hayworth-ish hairstyle. So that's all for that video. Just decided to do this kind of on the fly. So if there's anything else that you guys would like to see me revisit that I may have done in the past and that you guys would like to see me kind of redo, I'm glad to do that. I actually enjoy doing it. I have somewhat better camera quality than I had at one time, and I still have some of those old videos up, and you know, it's just one of those things. It's kind of a developing you know, kind of selection that you have available to you. Some of those might get removed, and then sometimes I might update. So we call those a street repeat around here. If there's anything else that you'd like to see, if you have any specific requests, please do let me know. And I am going to open up the, you know, the comments are always open for questions. I always try to get to all of your questions. It's relatively easy now because I have less views than I've had in the past, so I actually have less interaction, which means I actually get to interact more, and I kind of miss that. That was what I used to do. It's kind of a trade-off. Whenever you lose views, you actually gain an opportunity to communicate more with your viewers. So there's positives and negatives to everything. But anyway, so that's this, and I like it. I think it turned out pretty. Not quite as tight a wave as I would have liked, but again, I'm fighting with my hair length. So yeah, that's it. Let me know if there's anything else, like I said, that you want to see, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Whiskey, whiskey, lock up my pain. The only one I can depend on.